What's going on, everyone? We got another NFL offseason recap video. Today we're going to be looking at the Buffalo Bills, how they did last season, what they've done so far in free agency, and what they should be looking for in the draft. So before last year started, the Bills were projected to be the NFL Cinderella team of the year, similar to the Bears 2 years ago and the Jaguars 3 years ago. Well, the predictions were correct, as the Bills made the playoffs as a wildcard team, finishing 10-6 in the regular season and 3-3 in their division. It was a year of positive growth all over the board as Josh Allen grew as a passer, and Leslie Frazier's defense was one of the best in the league. Unfortunately, they choked in the playoffs, but most of it can be due to Deshaun Watson activating his takeover and just burning the Bills, who struggled offensively in the wildcard game. Now, the Bills had the 22nd best offensive DVOA, and while it may not look good on paper, the Bills had some success. In case you don't know what DVOA is, it is a statistic used by Football Outsiders that calculates the success of a football team on their offense or their defense depending on certain variables such as yards per down and yards per play. Now back to the Bills. Well, rookie running back Devin Singletary was a massive success as he was able to transition to a workhorse back towards the end of the year, taking carries away from the ageless wonder Frank Gore. Now, wide receivers John Brown and Cole Beasley proved to be solid targets in their own way, as Brown led the team in receiving as a downfield threat and Beasley developed into Allen's safety blanket in the slot. Now, the Bills' defense built on their solid performance in the 2018 season with a lockdown secondary spearheaded by Tre'Davious White, who is now one of the best man corners in the league. Other main contributors like Tremaine Edmonds, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and Jordan Phillips contributed to a defense that finished fourth in defensive DVOA. Now on to the Bills' pre-free agency moves. Now the Bills' main move before free agency started was trading for Stephon Diggs to make their wide receiving group one of the best in the NFL. Now Josh Allen has a legitimate number one receiver to throw to. Now, Stephon Diggs is an elite route runner and a guy that knows how to get open and make people miss after the catch. Him, John Brown, and Cole Beasley will be a nightmare for opposing defenses to cover, as each brings a different skill set to the table, which will allow Josh Allen to grow as a passer and a player. They also kept some continuity on their offensive line as they extended Quinton Spain for 3 years worth $15 million. Due to the Panthers' ruse that head coach Sean McDermott and GM Brandon Beane have, the Bills signed Josh Norman to a 1-year deal, in hopes of coaxing his elite coverage that he had when McDermott and Beane were part of the Panthers organization, and Josh Norman had one of his best years of his career. The Bills also retained two of their key reserves in cornerback Levi Wallace and wide receiver Robert Foster. The Bills made a ton of moves during free agency as they opened free agency with the third most cap space available, so they made moves to bolster their offense and their defense. First off, they signed Mario Addison to a 3-year, $30 million contract to be able to improve their sack totals, and Addison did play under McDermott and Beane when they were all with the Panthers. Now, the Bills also signed A.J. Klein to a 3-year, $18 million contract to help their linebacking group, as well as getting an outside linebacker to replace Lorenzo Alexander, who recently retired this past offseason. They signed Vernon Butler to a 2-year, $15 million contract and Quentin Jefferson to a 2-year, $13 million contract to help solidify their D-tackle spot. Both of who I think are great value signings, as Butler's another Panthers guy from McDermott's time with the Panthers, and Jefferson is highly underrated as an lineman that can play both inside and outside, as he did with the Seahawks. They also signed Tyler Makedevich to a 2-year, $9 million contract, while also signing former Panther offensive tackle Darrell Williams to a 1-year deal to help with depth along their O-line behind tackles Deion Dawkins, Cody Ford, and Ty Nixie. They also extended Jordan Poyer for 2 years, $20 million, which is a terrific move for the Bills, as he was a part of their lockdown secondary, as he plays free safety and was a part of that Bills culture since he signed with them back in 2017. The Bills also signed Tywan Jones, and they also signed Isaiah Kinsey in free agency as well. Now, the Bills didn't have many players that left them, but one of the main ones was Jordan Phillips, and he went to the Cardinals. And I mentioned this in the Cardinals video, but I think letting him go was the right move for the Bills, as I think his sack totals will be overvalued and his lack of pressures really limit his ceiling as a true pass-rushing interior force at D-tackle. And Shaq Lawson signed with the Dolphins, which was kind of expected because Lawson was only used as a situational pass rusher this past year, and he was a fifth-year first-round pick. And 6.5 sacks as a first-round pick in his fifth year wasn't enough for Brandon Beane to give him a new contract, so I think it was the right move to let him go to the Dolphins. The final player they let go was backup corner Kevin Johnson, who also went to the Browns. Now, after trading for Diggs, the need to draft a receiver such as T. Higgins or Denzel Mims, both who are big receivers, flew out the window in the first round. And the Bills don't even have a first-round pick anymore. So now the Bills should focus on getting younger in certain positions, such as edge rusher, as they're starting vets like Mario Addison there. Well, this isn't a deep edge rusher class, so the value in the second round at edge might not be there. Someone like Julian Okwara from Notre Dame might be the best player for them in the second round that they can get. Other than that, their team is similar to Baltimore's. It is pretty well built, and the only things they have to worry about is possibly getting a second corner outside Tre'Davious White, in case Josh Norman turns out to be a bust like he was in Washington. Another player that is possible to take in the second round instead of edge rusher is Jalen Johnson from Utah. And finally, a good running back to take some carries away from Singletary would also be a good move. And in this draft, there are some very sneaky gems in the middle rounds, such as Zach Moss from Utah and A.J. Dillon from Boston College. I'm a huge fan of Dillon, especially since he weighs 247 pounds and could be a really good power back to get them short yardage and goal line touchdowns. However, he might not be the best choice for fantasy owners of Singletary. Well, that's all for this offseason recap video of the Buffalo Bills. Don't forget to like, comment what you think the Bills' record is going to be in 2020, and who you think they should draft in the upcoming NFL draft, and subscribe.